welcome to our special edition of Bees Tonight. I'll be your host, Catherine Fielder. Tonight we'll be discussing our Australian native bee, some of the challenges that they are facing, how this contributes to our own well-being, and how a new initiative, the Bee Habitat, can improve their well-being and our own. Bees face a number of issues, including loss of habitat due to land clearing for urban sprawl or clearing of land for agriculture. This land clearing also results in increased pesticide and insecticide use to keep our homes and our food pest-free. Native bees are also subject to bee muggings. What we're seeing here is a honeybee hanging around the entrance to a native beehive. The honeybee waits until the native bees return with their pollen and then hijacks their pollen, taking that plunder home for themselves. And finally, native bees are affected by climate change. In Townsville alone, bee enthusiasts have reported that their hives are not thriving, they are merely surviving. And this has been the result of several heat waves and an unprecedented monsoonal rain event that has meant that the bees could not get out and forage for the pollen that they needed to make their hives strong. How does this affect us? First, let's take a look at some of the current research in happiness. When researchers look at happiness, they're often looking at two different types, hedonic and eudaimonic. Hedonic happiness is increased positive emotions, decreased negative emotions, and increased life satisfaction. Riff in 1998 thought that this wasn't enough to categorize happiness, and she further expanded on this with eudaimonic well-being, which included engagement, meaning and purpose, self-acceptance, environmental mastery, positive relationships with others, and autonomy. Martin Seligman, the founder of positive psychology, drew on these two theories and created PERMA. To Seligman, to be happy or to flourish means that we need to have positive emotion, engagement, positive relationships with others. We need to have meaning and be working towards a greater good. And we need to experience feelings of achievement. Right about now, you might be wondering, why is this important? It's important because the loss of habitat that the bees experience is also a loss of nature for us to engage in. In a systematic review involving 52 studies, researchers found that hedonic well-being is improved after one spends time in nature. One study found that if you reside in an urban environment, hedonic happiness is increased if you live at maximum 1.6 kilometers from 1 hectare of green space. There have been limited studies that have assessed eudaimonic well-being and nature. However, one study found that the number of visits to nature is connected to feelings of worthiness. Contact with nature has also been shown to improve physical health, reducing medical costs, and improving local economies. Next, let's take a look at our bee habitat. First, we add a community garden. Community gardens have been around since before the First World War. They were used to supply nutritious food supplements when societies were on rations. Today, community gardens exist as individual plots to be rented or as a collective garden managed by all. They provide opportunities for all of the ingredients to flourish that were identified by Seligman's PERMA theory. Research into community gardens has shown that participants experience increased feelings of positive emotions, reduced stress, and reduced tension than those who don't engage in community gardens. Regarding engagement, participants often experience attributes of flow, eagerness, and motivation. Social connections are improved as people have reported having a like-minded connection with other participants. Community gardeners also tend to bounce ideas off each other and brainstorm life problems that they're having with each other. Meaning can be found in community gardens. This might be through reducing food mileage, carbon footprints, or generally supporting the community. Additionally, some people find meaning in community gardens through setting individual goals. This might include setting up composting or worm farming. Achievement can also be found in these activities, along with the achievement of growing your own food. Participants have also reported experiencing feelings of connection to nature, to the world, and to life force itself. To turn this community garden into a bee habitat, we're going to add flowers. Lots and lots of flowers. Preferably native, but what do we know bees like? Flowers. A quick Google search will give you some reputable sites that recommend how to help our native bee. The CSIRO and Aussie Backyard Buddies recommend planting some native plants, especially flowers, to help our native friends. Simply put, our native bees don't travel as far as our honeybees. While honeybees can range around 5 kilometres from their hive, native bees might do half this, meaning they don't get to go as far to find food sources that they need. Next, in our bee habitat, we include bee hotels and bee hives. Australia has a lot of solitary native bees, which means that they don't live in communities like the honeybees do. In saying this, we do have some species that require a hive, such as the native stingless bee. Community beehives add added volunteer opportunities to the community garden. People might live in apartments and might not be able to have beehives at home. Alternatively, they might just not want beehives at home, but might be willing to do something to help their native friends. But don't take my word for it. Let's head on over to our social media page and see what some of the Townsville native bee enthusiasts had to say about keeping hives of their own. When asked, why do you keep native bees and what does this mean to you, the North Queensland Native Stingless Bee Facebook group responded with a variety of answers. But most commonly, people had rehomed beehives that would otherwise have been destroyed. Native bees like to make homes in places where we don't necessarily want them. This includes meter boxes or your letterbox. Some people wanted to teach their kids about bees, other people wanted to do their part for the environment. Finally, we want this bee habitat to be a place that kids can hang out while mum and dad work out in the garden. So ideally it would include a place for kids to play, including a rainwater tank with a hand pump and a guided stream, a mud kitchen and a mud dining table, a sandpit and a sensory play area, a stump village, and eventually we'd like to add a swing off a tree, just like this. A quick recap of the bee habitat is that it includes a community garden with native plants and flowers, bee hives and bee hotels, and has a place for the younger generation. To give you a visual, here is a rough diagram of what a bee habitat would look like. Additional benefits of the bee habitat are community workshops regarding native bees, the fact that children can become involved and encouraged to like insects. Both of these reduce the stigma attached to bees, in that they are not nice or that they are harmful. And it includes the connection with other community groups such as men's sheds to purchase low-cost, high-quality beehives and bee hotels. In conclusion, the bee habitat provides additional foraging opportunities for native bees and a visible location to source rehoming of unwanted bees. It provides a nature connection to the community, which provides additional green space, which we know improves our well-being. It provides increased community opportunities for people to seek mental well-being, happiness, and to flourish, as outlined by PERMA. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today on Bees Tonight. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care.